My son left me babysitting while they ran some errands. After they left, my granddaughter whispered, "Grandma, I heard them say they're putting you in a home today and taking your money." So I got busy. What they found when they came home left them panicking. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. If I failed today, I'd lose my freedom and every dollar Henry and I put away for a lifetime. Lily's whisper hit me like a thrown stone. "Grandma, I heard Mom and Dad say they're putting you in a home today and taking your money." She went back to coloring, little shoulders rising and falling like none of it mattered. I smoothed her hair and told her to finish the page. Then I walked to the sink, ran the water so the house would sound ordinary, and dialed the one person who wouldn't talk to me like I was past my expiration date. "Daniel, it's Nora. I need you today. 2 o'clock if you can swing it. Everything okay?" His voice dropped a register. "It will be by 4. I ended the call, and with the faucet still hissing, called my bank. I didn't explain the whole storm. I just asked calm questions that meant lightning. Transfer windows, account holds, cashier's checks, what could move today and what needed a signature. When I hung up, I tucked our birth certificates, Henry's death certificate, my will, and a stack of statements into the big leather purse I'd carried since the funeral. Widow's intuition had told me to keep the important pieces within arm's reach. Today I played the hand I'd been hiding. At 1:30, I told Lily we were going for a walk. She grabbed her blue hoodie and my hand. She loved being my little shadow. The coffee shop hum was our cover. Daniel was already at a corner table in shirt sleeves, tie crooked, the way he always looked when trouble was honest and urgent. I explained while Lily drew cats on a napkin with one of those tiny pencils the shop keeps for crosswords. "They think I'm soft enough to fold," I said, and watched his eyes harden. "I'm not." "We'll revoke any powers they have, move assets they know about, and insulate what they don't," he said, already making a list. "You ready for signatures?" "I'm ready to be done being treated like a wallet with legs." The rhythm turned kinetic. We crossed the street to his office. Lily went to the waiting room toy shelf and built a crooked tower while I rebuilt a life. I signed a revocation that put my name, and only my name, back at the helm. I signed a new durable power naming Daniel as my agent if life ever stole my say. I signed transfer authorizations to accounts Kyle and Jenna didn't know existed. I signed a fresh will that took my son and his wife out of the center and put Lily's future in a trust where nobody could pluck it like a ripe apple before its time. Grief had made me blurry for 18 months. Today I could read fine print without glasses. By 3, we were at my old bank. Lily sat in the children's corner with a lollipop while a manager, alert eyes, steady hands, scanned my ID and clicked through balances that made her blink. "You're asking to move? All of it?" "Every dime," I said. "Today. There may be a hold until the other institution confirms receipt. Then we'll push both directions," Daniel said. Professional and mild, but I could feel the steel thread in his tone. "Wire out, confirmation in, cashier's checks for anything that misses the window." The manager hesitated. "Is everything all right at home?" I held her gaze. "It will be once this is finished." She didn't press. Keys clicked. A printer shuttered. Pages stacked, stamped, slid across for signatures. When we finished, I had cashier's checks like small bricks and a list of wires en route, and the air around my chest felt wider. We walked back to the house with Lily skipping beside me, oblivious to the war her whisper had started. Inside, I sent her to her room to read and tied on an apron. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. If they were going to try to pack me off like last year's decorations, they'd do it after the best dinner they'd had all month. I cooked like it was theater, the way my mother taught me, salt in my fingers, oven door a drumbeat, the house filling with old comfort while I stacked new consequences. At 7, doors opened, voices floated in, too bright by half. "Smells amazing, Mom," Kyle called. Jenna trailed him with a shopping bag and a face turned up like she expected a halo. We ate with the hush of people acting normal. I asked about Lily's school. I complimented Jenna's haircut. Kyle said the roast was great and barely chewed. When the plates were cleared and Lily was upstairs brushing her teeth, Kyle cleared his throat. "Mom, can we talk for a minute in the living room?" I took my favorite chair by the window. They took the couch like a panel of judges who knew the verdict already. Jenna folded her hands. Kyle found something fascinating on his shoelace. "We've been looking at options," Jenna began, voice dipped in syrup. "A community with people your age, activities, medical staff." "A nursing home," I said. "Say the words." "It's not," Kyle tried. "It is," I said, not unkindly. "And you made arrangements today." They traded looks, guilty twins. I let the silence grow until it needed a name. Then I pulled my phone and hit Daniel's contact. "We're ready," I said. "Not 10 minutes? Thank you." Jenna's mask cracked. "Nora, what are you doing?" "Taking care of business, like you taught me when you handed me the grand total for your student loans and asked for help, remember?" The doorbell rang 10 minutes later like a stage cue. Daniel stepped in with his briefcase and his courtroom face, nodding to each of them by their names like he was handing out towels at a prize fight. "Evening," he said, settling into the armchair across from them. "Nora asked me to summarize a few changes." Kyle's mouth tightened. "Changes?" Daniel opened the case. "Effective this afternoon, any power you had over Nora's finances or health decisions has been revoked. New documents are executed and recorded. Assets you were familiar with have been transferred beyond your control. Her will has been updated." Jenna's politeness fell away like a dropped plate. "Why would you do this?" "Because Lily's ears work," I said, "and because I'm 67, not lost." Kyle sat forward, color rising. "We were trying to protect you. By choosing for me? By pricing facilities without telling me? By cutting me off from friends because you decided I couldn't keep up?" The calm I'd cooked into the roast had turned into a blade edge. "Protection listens. Control talks over." Daniel kept going, the metronome of accountability. "There's also an accounting issue. Significant funds previously contributed to this household were provided with the understanding that Nora would have a permanent home here. If that understanding is withdrawn, she has a claim to repayment. We hope to resolve amicably. If not, there are remedies." Jenna whispered, "We don't have that money." "That's not my problem anymore," I said, gentler than the words. "You can sell this house, get second jobs, or cut subscriptions you never use. Or you can declare bankruptcy and start fresh. But you won't do it with my name on your back." Kyle stood, hands open like he was showing he carried no weapon. "Mom, please think about Lily." "I am," I said, and meant it. "That's why her college fund is now walled off in a trust you can't raid every time the dishwasher breaks." His jaw flexed. "So that's it? You're done? You're just going to evict yourself from your family?" "I'm moving," I said. "My lease is signed, the keys are ready. I'll pack tonight and sleep in my own place tomorrow. You'll find a copy of the notice I'm giving you. 30 days to figure out how to live on your own dime." Jenna's laugh was thin and bright. "You can't be serious." "I'm tired of pretending to be fragile so you can feel strong," I said. "I buried Henry, sold the house, and learned to carry my own groceries up 3 flights of stairs. I'm serious." The conversation might have ended there, a clean cut, but life loves a reversal. Daniel's phone buzzed. He frowned, then looked at me. "Wire Room says one of the outgoing transfers is flagged for manual confirmation. The manager we met had to escalate due to the amount." Kyle heard "flagged" and pounced. "So you can't even move your money." I stood. "Watch me adjust." Daniel was already dialing. "Yes, this is attorney of record for Ms. Hale. She'll be present on the call." He switched to speaker, and within minutes we were verifying identity questions that felt like they'd been written by a relative who wanted to make sure I wasn't a hologram. Street I grew up on. First pet. The color of the bridesmaid dresses my sister swore would look good on everybody. I answered and added detail the computer didn't need, but the person on the other end did. When we hung up, Daniel nodded. Clear, funds are moving. I turned back to Kyle and Jenna. That was your window. If you were hoping a clerical hold would save your plan, it didn't. Jenna's shoulders slumped. We were drowning, she said, voice small. The mortgage, the cards, daycare, you seemed like... She stopped herself, but the word hung in the air anyway. Solution. I'm not a solution, I said. I'm a person. You had 18 months of me paying most of your bills and putting Lily to bed while you ran errands. You could have asked for help honestly. Instead, you tried to shove me off the map. Kyle sat down like the gravity doubled. What do you want from us? Name it. I want you to remember I'm not your employee, I said. I want the money I put into this house chalked where it belongs. I want you to apologize to Lily for making her the messenger. And I want the two of you to stop treating me like a problem to be managed. Silence again, wider this time. Upstairs, the bathroom fan whirred. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice. The house felt suddenly like a set, and I could see the edges. Daniel closed his briefcase. We're done here for tonight. I'll send you both a letter in the morning outlining the numbers and options. If you'd like to propose a payment plan, we'll consider it. Jenna's eyes filled. Nora, please. I'll always love my son, I said. That doesn't mean I'll let him hurt me. I packed after they went to their room and closed the door. It wasn't dramatic. 2 suitcases, a box of cookbooks, my jewelry in a zippered pouch, Henry's folded flag, his watch. Lily shuffled into the hall in pink socks and hugged me around the waist so hard I had to catch the doorframe. Are you leaving? Just moving, I said, crouching to meet her eyes. You'll come swim at my new place. We'll bake cookies and not tell anyone how many we eat. She smiled, uncertain but willing to borrow my courage. Do you still love Daddy? I'll always love him because he gave me you, I said, and it was the truth that didn't excuse a thing. Grown-ups can love and still make hard choices. I drove across town beneath a sky the color of clean slate. The building manager had left the keys in an envelope with my name, and the elevator hummed like a lullaby. My new apartment smelled like fresh paint and lemon oil. I opened the balcony door and let in night air and a river hush. The city moved below me, ordinary and enormous. I set Henry's flag on the mantel and put his watch in a drawer. Then I made tea and stood barefoot in my new life. In the morning, I woke before my alarm and realized my chest didn't ache. The kitchen light made the counters glow. The refrigerator held exactly what I wanted: milk, eggs, strawberries, 1 celebratory slice of cheesecake. I toasted sourdough and buttered it in slow strokes, then opened my notebook and wrote a list. Change the mailing address, call the book club, text the church ladies, sign up for watercolor on Thursdays, buy a bathing suit that wasn't bought for someone else's comfort. The phone rang and flashed Kyle's name. I let it go to voicemail and listened with the window open. Mom, please call me back. We can work something out. Jenna's freaking out. Lily's asking where you are. We didn't think... He stopped. The most honest sentence of the last year. I deleted the message and called Daniel instead. Thank you, I said, for making me my own emergency contact. You did that, he said. I just handed over the pen. I sat on the balcony in my robe and watched the river catch sun. My hands shook a little, then steadied. There were still numbers to reckon and letters to send. There would be court, maybe, and the cold mechanics of restitution. But for the first time since Henry's heart had quit without warning on a bright morning 18 months ago, I felt the day lean my way. At noon, I drove back to the old house with 2 empty totes and a mind like a checklist. I boxed my photo albums, my mother's mixing bowls, the quilt Lily loved to snuggle under on rainy afternoons. Jenna met me at the door looking like a woman who hadn't slept. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't speak at all until I was leaving, tote bags on both arms. "Nora?" she asked, voice brittle. Are you going to ruin us?" "I'm going to stop paying for your choices," I said. "What you do next is up to you." When I reached the sidewalk, Lily pressed her face to the upstairs window and waved with both hands. I waved back. My phone buzzed. Daniel again, short and to the point. "Transfers landed." I breathed out a laugh that tasted like dawn. Driving away, I thought about what people mean when they say starting over. It isn't fireworks or confetti. It's keys in your palm and papers in your name, and a door that opens because your hand is the one turning the knob. It's roast beef and hard conversations, and the courage to say, "No more," and mean it. It's a granddaughter's whisper that breaks your heart and saves your life at the same time. By evening, my apartment smelled like garlic and tomatoes. I FaceTimed Lily and showed her the pool downstairs. She grinned and asked if we could make cookies that looked like cats. "Absolutely," I said. After we hung up, I stood by the window and let the city come on like a slow constellation. Somewhere, Kyle and Jenna were working on a budget and the skill of listening. Somewhere, Henry's picture looked down on a house I no longer had to pretend was home. I washed the dinner dishes, turned off the kitchen light, and carried a book to bed. The sheets were cool, the pillow soft, the night quiet. I slid the window open an inch and fell asleep on that clean slate, the page of a life with my own handwriting on it. The envelope on my doormat was the thick, ugly kind of official. Barcode, window, the return address that makes neighbors peek through blinds. I'd been in the new apartment 6 days. My plants hadn't decided which way the light came from yet. I slid a butter knife under the flap and read the first line twice before it settled into meaning. Petition for appointment of conservator. I put the paper on the counter like it might leak and called Daniel. "Breathe," he said. "Did they ask for temporary orders?" "Yes." Emergency relief due to risk of exploitation and self-neglect. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. They lined up a home visit for tomorrow, apparently. "They can't just drop by and declare you a ward," he said. "We'll respond today. I'll get you on the calendar for an independent evaluation. You'll be fine." "What time?" "An hour. Bring the packet." I dressed like competence. Dark jeans, clean sweater, hair back, and took the elevator down with my binder under my arm. The lobby smelled like lemon oil and somebody's aftershave. Outside, the river moved like a second hand. At his office, Daniel took the petition with a mouth that could cut rope. "They allege you've been confused with finances and isolated from support." "I moved out and joined a watercolor class," I said. "If that's isolation, I've been doing it wrong." He half smiled. "We'll stipulate to a neutral evaluator, not the one their lawyer suggested. We'll also invite Adult Protective Services to observe your home environment on our schedule, not theirs. That usually stops the cowboy nonsense." I made a list. I opened my binder. Monthly bills paid, meds, dose, and time. My pill box is boring and color-coded. I scanned receipts just because I like cheating entropy. I have a calendar with Lily days, class days, book club, doctor. He looked up. "You have book club?" "Thursday. We drink wine and forgive plot holes." "Good. Judges like lives. We'll include that." He drafted while I texted the watercolor teacher, the book club ladies, the church secretary, and the neighbor who'd already borrowed my step stool. People texted back like bungee cords catching. "Of course we'll write you a letter. Do you need a ride? Do you want me there?" The church secretary added a line that made me laugh despite myself. "If anyone tries to move you without your say, call me. I have keys and opinions." By afternoon, the emergency hearing request was denied. "No immediate risk," said the clerk, and a status hearing set 2 weeks out. The court ordered an evaluation and allowed a home visit at reasonable times. Reasonable meant not, "We're downstairs in 5 minutes." The next morning, I scrubbed my sink like my mother was coming and put out coffee I wouldn't share. The social worker arrived with the tired eyes of a person who's seen every version of both kindness and its opposite. She set her tote on the counter and looked around my kitchen. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yes." I pointed to the pillbox, the calendar, the magnet with the after-hours number for my primary. I cook, I shop, I take my meds, I swim on Tuesdays and Fridays, watercolor on Thursdays, church on Sundays, book club every other Thursday. Elevator is dependable. I keep my phone charged. She flipped through a form. Any falls? Once, last winter. I installed a grab bar in the shower anyway. I showed her. She made a satisfying checkmark. We walked through the apartment. She noted the smoke alarms, the rug tape, the nightlight in the hall. I brewed coffee anyway because hospitality is muscle memory, and she took a cup she wasn't supposed to accept, and we both pretended it wasn't against some policy. Your son's petition mentioned confusion with bills, she said gently. I was grieving, I said just as gently. Grief is a fog, not a diagnosis. See? I slid bank statements across. Bills paid on time for the past year. The 3 months after I buried Henry are messy. I didn't need a conservator. I needed a casserole and a nap. She wrote more slowly after that. We're not in the business of erasing people because they cried, she said. When she left, I texted Lily a picture of the pool shimmering under the morning sun. She sent back a cat drawn with toothpick whiskers and the caption, "This one wants cookies." The evaluator came on a Tuesday with a soft briefcase and the careful voice professionals use when tests have to feel like conversation. I'm Dr. Ames, she said. I want to understand how you're living and what you want for yourself. There are some memory exercises. Nothing you can win, but I'll ask you to draw a clock, remember a few words, that sort of thing. When do I get extra credit? I asked. She smiled without promising. We sat at the table, and she laid out clean paper and a pencil like we were going to write a letter to a cousin. Okay, she said. 3 words, apple, chair, blue. I repeated them and tapped the pencil tip on the table like a metronome. She asked me to count backward by 7s from 100, and I asked if we were buying groceries or anesthesia, because who else uses 7s that way? I drew her a clock so crisp she raised an eyebrow. I told her my address, my doctor's name, the mayor's last name, who the current quarterback was for our team, I guessed landed close enough for comedy, and the expiration date on my driver's license. At one point, she asked me to spell world backward, and I said DLROW, and then added, which is what you get when your children try to flip the order of a life you can still read forward. The joke landed. She didn't write that down. She didn't have to. Tell me about your finances, she said. I opened the binder to the budget page I drew up last week. Neat columns, realist numbers. Pension, Social Security, interest income. I can carry my own weight. The help I gave my son's household for 18 months was a gift I can document. If their current budget collapses without me, that's a math problem I can't solve without hurting myself. And your social supports? Friends, church. The lifeguard who yells at me for walking too fast on wet tile. The woman 2 floors down who bakes zucchini bread but claims it's banana. And Lily, I said, feeling the soft place where her name lives inside me. I'm not cut off. I stepped back from people who mistook me for an ATM with arthritis. She looked around my living room. Plants reoriented, new throw pillows, Henry's folded flag on the mantel, and nodded like she was measuring beam strength. Do you have a plan if you get sick? Advance directive in the folder. Daniel is my agent. There's a list of people to call on the fridge. Doctor, neighbor, church, taxi, the good pizza place. She laughed once. Small. Okay. When she left, I swam slow, mind quieting to the rhythm of reach and kick. Water makes honesty float easier. I counted laps and remembered the 3 words just because. Apple, chair, blue. On the 3rd lap, I thought of Henry, who would have hated this, who would have put his big hand over mine at the kitchen table and said, "Anyone tries to make you small, baby, you stand up." I stood up in the shallow end and wiped water from my eyes like it was chlorine. The week filled. I went to watercolor and tried to get a lemon to look like a lemon and not a sad yellow rock. Women in the class asked careful questions that turned into less careful laughter. Book club met and demolished a novel we adored anyway, because that's how love works. The church ladies texted me a selfie with a sign that read, "Free Norris, plural." Because if you help one of us, you help us all. I put their letters in the binder. The binder felt heavier and lighter at the same time. Kyle didn't call. Jenna texted once, "We can drop the petition if you agree to move into Oak Meadows." She attached a brochure that showed 3 white-haired people playing beanbag toss like sinners. I wrote back, "I have a lease." If you want to drop something, drop the petition and bring Lily for cookies on Saturday. She didn't answer. On Friday, my doorbell rang. Not the social worker, not Dr. Ames, Kyle. Hands in hoodie pockets like a teenager, hair uncombed. The boy in him yanked at my heart even while the man had me in court. "Can we talk?" he asked. "On the balcony," I said, because I wanted witnesses made of air and river. He looked out over the water like we were sharing a postcard. "Jenna's scared," he said. "She says you're making enemies you don't need." "I'm making boundaries," I said. "Enemies happen on their own." He took a breath. "The petition." We panicked. "Money's tight. You moving out made it tighter. The idea of you slipping. It scared me." "Did I slip?" I asked. "Did I leave the stove on? Did I forget the mailbox for weeks? Did I get lost in my own neighborhood?" He shook his head. "So you weren't trying to protect me. You were trying to ensure access." He didn't argue. He spread his hands like he used to do when he came home late and swore the car had messaged him the wrong time. "Lily misses you," he said. "She'll see me Saturday." I folded my arms. "Kyle, I won't withdraw from the hearing. You asked a judge to erase my say. We're going to ask the judge to write it bigger." He swallowed, then nodded once, small as a blink. "Okay." He left with his hands still in his pockets. I went inside, set out butter to soften, and beat sugar into it until it turned pale and fluffy enough to forgive anything but theft. The evaluation report came by email the next Wednesday, a PDF with more formal words for common sense. Daniel called the same minute my phone pinged. "Read it?" he asked. "Just opened." He waited while I skimmed. The shape of it was clean, alert and oriented, manages finances independently, no evidence of dementia, grief period acknowledged, strong social supports, no conservatorship recommended. She suggested family counseling and a financial boundary plan that would have made Henry bark a laugh. The last line unhooked the knot between my shoulders. Court should consider sanctions for misuse of conservatorship process as a debt collection strategy. I laughed without meaning to. She used the S word. "She did," Daniel said. "We'll attach it to our response. The judge will see it before the hearing. If opposing counsel has any sense, they'll stipulate to dismissal." "What about fees?" I asked, feeling a mean little bloom of satisfaction I didn't completely like. "We'll ask," he said. "Judges don't love punishing children for being stupid, but they do like protecting the court's time. We'll aim for your costs." Lily came Saturday in a hoodie with cat ears, eyes bright. She barreled into my apartment and went straight for the mixing bowls. We cut cookies into cats and moons and hearts, and she pressed whisker marks into the dough with a fork. "Daddy said, 'You're fine,'" she announced like a messenger delivering peace. "I am," I said. "Thanks for telling me the storm was coming." She shrugged, then leaned in. "Grandma, can I sleep over next week?" "I'll ask," I said, and we both knew I meant I'd ask the judge in the universe. Circumstance, adults doing better, schedules. But hope is a muscle too. We flexed it with sugar. After she left, the afternoon went quiet in that particular way Saturdays do when you refuse to fill them with errands. I watered plants and argued with a lemon until it agreed to look like itself. The river threw a path of light across my ceiling. For the first time since the envelope, my hands didn't shake when I checked the mail. The hearing came sooner than my nerves thought it would. We sat in the cool room where futures are adjusted one docket at a time. Me in my competent sweater again, Daniel Crisp, the opposing attorney with eyes that kept sliding to the evaluation like it might sprout teeth. Kyle and Jenna sat at the back, smaller than their plan. The judge read Dr. Ames's report on the record, the words dry and kind. On this record, he said, the petition is denied. No conservator is necessary. The court finds Ms. Hale capable of managing her own affairs. Costs to be addressed upon motion. Parties are encouraged to seek mediation to resolve family disputes outside this forum. Jenna started crying quietly. Kyle put a hand on her knee. I felt sorry and not sorry at once. Outside, Daniel squeezed my shoulder. That's the arc we wanted. I'll file for your costs on Monday. We won't get rich. I don't want to, I said. I want the court to have said it out loud. It did. We walked to the parking lot through air that smelled like hot pavement and cut grass. My car was a little oven. I cracked the windows and sat until the steering wheel cooled. A text came from my book club friend. How did it go? I sent back a single word. Free. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store and bought a lemon that looked like a lemon. At the pharmacy, I picked up my refill and chatted with the tech about the weather, like a woman who belonged to the small order of people who know what day it is and what to make for dinner. Back in my kitchen, I opened the binder and slid the judge's order into a plastic sleeve. I put it behind the evaluation and in front of the letters from the church ladies, as if kindness were both prelude and backstop to law. My life fit between those covers. Appointments, recipes, numbers, a granddaughter's drawing of a cat that looked like a potato with ambition. I closed the binder and exhaled. The mail brought a new envelope, thinner, not ugly. My insurer reminding me of a policy I'd barely thought about since Henry. A line item made me frown. I set it aside for later, beside my watercolor pencils and the lemon. The day had turned, and I knew better than to spoil it chasing ghosts. That night, I ate pasta with the tomato sauce I can make in my sleep and called Lily to say goodnight. I told her the judge had decided I was the boss of me. She giggled, then got serious. You were always the boss of you, she said. Thank you, I answered, and felt that truth sit quietly in the room like an old friend who'd finally found my new address. The thin envelope sat where I'd left it, under my watercolor pencils and the lemon that finally looked like itself. I made tea before I opened it, as if citrus and caffeine could brace a person against whatever a windowed envelope decides it is. Annual notice, the header said in a font that wanted me calm. Policy number I didn't recognize. Insured Henry J. Hale. Owner Nora Hale. The body was polite about an impolite fact. Your policy is at risk of lapse due to outstanding loan balance and accrued interest. Please remit. I read it again, throat going dry. Loan? Against a policy I barely remembered, much less borrowed from? I called the number, the way you call an old friend who sends a cryptic text. After the hold music finished scolding me for not banking online, a woman named Cora picked up. All competence and headset cheer. Before we get into amounts, I said, tell me what this policy is. Whole life issued 1997, she said. Face value $50,000. Cash value currently reduced due to outstanding loan. I never took a loan. Let me pull history. Clicks. A silence like a held breath. The loan was issued March 15th of last year. I looked at the calendar that lives in the back of my brain. That was 3 months after Henry's funeral, the same month I forgot to pay the water bill and ate cereal for dinner because grief makes grocery lists feel like Latin. How did you process it? I asked. Mail? Online? Paper form, notarized, overnighted. We mailed a confirmation to the address on file. No. They mailed it somewhere. It did not land anywhere near me. What address? She listed my old house, the one where my name was on every bill, but the mail took detours to Jenna's desktop. We also sent an email acknowledgement, she added, businesslike. To what address? She read an account name I had never owned, Hale.family to Finanza. I closed my eyes. I could hear Jenna months ago. Let me set up a folder for you. It'll be easier if I handle the boring stuff. Somewhere in there, I let a camel's nose under a tent. I need copies, I said, my voice the one I used to use with utility companies who thought widows were a sport. Full policy history, all change forms, the loan request with the notary page, any beneficiary updates since issuance, and the addresses and emails you have on file. And if that loan request came by a shipping label, I want the label image. If you use e-sign vendors or track IP addresses, put that on the list too. She hesitated. Policy, privacy, procedure, and then put me on hold long enough for me to butter the toast I hadn't planned on eating. When she came back, she said, "We can send copies of the documents to the owner's address on file or fax to my attorney," I said, and gave her Daniel's number. "And correct the email to mine. I'll also be sending a written request." I paused. "And Cora? Please put a block on the account. No transactions without a voice-verified call from me. You can give them my driver's license number twice if it makes you feel better." She cleared her throat. "I've added a note," she said, and I heard the unspoken, "I'm sorry," she wasn't allowed to say on the job. I hung up and called Daniel. "You're kidding," he said when I told him. "No, you're not. Okay, we'll get the packet and then we'll get aggressive. Insurance companies keep everything. We'll have signatures, notary stamp, sometimes even envelope scans. If there's a whiff of forgery, we talk to the Economic Crimes Unit." "Do we loop Kyle and Jenna now?" I asked. "Not yet. Let them talk to paper, not you. You'll have cleaner leverage." I texted the church ladies. One of them works reception at a title company and knows notary stamps like other people know bird calls. "Can you look up a notary by name if I send a stamp?" She replied in 3 minutes. "Honey, I can tell you what color pen he prefers." The fax hit Daniel's machine like a rainstorm. Cover sheet, copies, the kind of grayscale that makes everyone look like they're wearing makeup for a ghost story. He scanned and shared while I refreshed my email, nerves buzzing. The loan form sat on my screen, obscene in its ordinary. Owner, Nora Hale. Loan amount, $14,000. Notary, a block stamped clean, Catherine Merritt. Notary public, state at large, commission number and an expiration a year from now. The signature that was supposed to be mine curled where mine hooks and flattened where mine loops. It was good, good enough to fool a clerk, good enough to cut. Daniel called. "You're seeing the same thing I am," he said. "It's not my hand." I swallowed. "Not by inches, not by bone." "Look at the address," he said. There it was, below the signature, the old house, and the email, that Frankenstein of our last name and Jenna's idea of efficiency. "Beneficiary?" I asked. "Still you," he said. "No change since 1997, but Kyle or Jenna," he was careful to say, or "pulled cash out when you were under. That's theft, Nora. It might also be forgery if they signed your name." "Might," I repeated, because I have learned to respect the word. We don't know who held the pen. "We will," he said. "We'll start by finding the notary." The church friend delivered in under an hour because the Sisterhood of Office Ladies is faster than the FBI when motivated. Catherine Merritt worked out of a parcel shop 2 neighborhoods over. I called. She answered with the bored briskness of a woman who stamps more affidavits than anyone should. "I'm trying to verify a notarization," I said. "March 15th last year. Name would be Nora Hale." She pulled a book. "What's the document?" "Loan against a life policy," paper ruffled. "I have a March 15th. The signer's ID was a driver's license." The picture matched. "What did she look like?" Pause. Short, dark hair, shoulder length, glasses, blue cardigan with a little embroidered cat, I think. She sounded pleased with the detail. I tried to keep my breath from turning into a noise. Jenna's cat cardigan lives in my memory like a bad punchline. "Did she sign in front of you?" I asked. "Of course. she said, offended on behalf of her book. She signed. I wrote the ID number. She left. Thank you, I said, and added before I could stop myself. You notarized a theft. Silence. Ma'am, I can only verify identity. And you did, I said. I'm not arguing with your book. I hung up before my voice said something else. I opened the binder and slid the loan form into a plastic sleeve with the kind of care you give a venomous snake. Then I called someone I hadn't called since Henry died, Paige Larkin. Paige had worked with Henry for 15 years, a colleague who sent casseroles without asking what kind, a woman who knew where the bodies were buried at work and which ones were paperwork. We hadn't spoken beyond condolences and the slow fade that grief gives to people not in your daily orbit. I didn't love bringing her into this. I also needed someone who knew what Henry had believed about our money. Nora, she said, warm to my name. How are you? Free, as of last week, I said, because the truth had been feeling more useful than the easy answer. I'm calling because, did Henry ever talk to you about life insurance? Not the work policy, personal. He did, she said, and I could hear the clack of her keyboard slowing so her memory could take over. Back in '97, when Lily's father was still eating crayons, he told me he'd taken out a small whole life to make sure you always had something separate from the house and retirement, belt and suspenders, Henry. He had this superstition about not leaving you dependent on whatever the market decided to feel that day. He never told me the details, I said. He left me a note for you, she said, and my heart did a dumb little leap I wasn't ready for. Not a secret. He asked me to give it to you if you ever asked. I didn't want to barge into your grief with paper. I should have sooner, maybe. A note? I asked. Paige, what does it say? It's in my desk, she said. I can mail it or we can meet. Let's meet, I said fast, because the idea of his handwriting traveling alone through a postal machine felt like lending a ring to a laundromat. Lunch? Tomorrow? She suggested a bistro downtown where the bread is warm and the walls listen. We set a time. After we hung up, I stared at the lemon on my counter until it blurred into a sun I could hold. I called Daniel again. We have a notary and we have Paige. Good, he said. I'll draft a preservation letter for the parcel shop, ask for their security footage from that day, and for the notary's journal page. They'll ignore us unless we mention the words subpoena and criminal complaint with the right font. I'll also get the insurance company to cough IP logs for any e-signs on address or email changes. Paige has a note from Henry. That's the kind of thing juries like, he said. So do judges. Make sure it lands in an envelope I can duplicate 12 times. The afternoon stretched. I swam because water fixes nothing and steadies everything. I counted laps and recited a list like prayer. Policy number, loan date, notary name, cardigan. I stopped mid-lap when something else surfaced, the email change. The insurer had switched the contact email at some point to that hail.family.finance concoction. I went home wet-haired and dug into my old phone, the one with cracked glass that holds the weird archaeology of a marriage. In the weeks after Henry's funeral, Jenna had set up systems, password manager, shared inbox. I'll handle it, she'd said, really meaning, I'll hold it. I opened my storage bin, the one labeled just in case in handwriting that looks steadier now, and found an accordion folder with unpaid parking tickets from 2001 and, more usefully, an old bank statement with 2 checks, one to the insurer, one to the parcel shop address. Memo line, notary. The checks had my name. The handwriting did not. Same flattening, same cheap flourish at the end like a waiter's idea of fancy. I took photos and sent them to Daniel. He called back with the kind of satisfaction men used to smoke about. Check images are gold, he said. We'll subpoena the bank for originals and surveillance video if their branch had it. We just turned forgery from allegation to color photograph. I sat at my table and tried to keep my breathing even. Anger is a hot, stupid thing that wants to burn your tongue. I sipped water and felt it cool. Paige slid into the bistro the next day with sun in her hair and an envelope in her hand. We hugged like people who'd stood on the same shoreline, watching the same ship go under. "He loved you like gravity," she said. "I don't have to tell you that." "I know," I said, and looked at the envelope the way you look at a sealed door. "Before I hand this over," she said carefully, "I need to show you something else. HR records. Did Kyle or Jenna ever reach out to me?" "Yes. About a year before Henry died, Jenna called to ask how beneficiary changes worked and whether she could sign anything for Henry if he wasn't up to it. I told her spousal consent is a different animal, and she wasn't the spouse. I logged the call because my hackles went up. She slid a printed email across the table, a screenshot from her work system. Jenna Hale, Inquiry beneficiary changes. I couldn't give her anything, Paige said. I told Henry, he laughed. Jenna's a planner, he said. He didn't see the angle you and I can see from this side. Thank you, I said, my voice steady because my insides were not. That helps. Here, she said, and passed me the envelope. It had Henry's work return address in the top left and my name in the middle in his tidy block print. Inside, one sheet of legal pad paper, written the way he wrote instructions for assembling the tree stand. Numbered, precise. Nora, if I do something foolish, forgive me. If I do nothing, forgive me twice. There is a personal life policy, not the work one. You always said you hated surprises unless they were cake. This is the only kind of surprise I'd ever try. Policy number, he wrote it. Agent was Lou at the strip mall office, but the company changed hands. The policy is for you, not for anyone who calls you mom with their hands out. If anyone ever pressures you to consolidate, tell them I promised you wouldn't. If you're reading this, I'm either overcautious or gone. Either way, don't let my love be a lever someone else uses on you. H. My throat closed around the sentence about people who call me mom. I handed the page to Paige because my hands were shaking. He knew, she said softly. Not exactly what, but the pressure. We all saw it a little. I'm a smart woman who played dumb for peace, I said. Peace didn't show. We split a salad and didn't taste any of it. When the check came, she snatched it and said, "Consider this retroactive condolence." Walking to the parking garage, I felt lighter and heavier at once. Love on paper will do that to you. Back home, I put Henry's note in the binder, behind the loan form and in front of the notary stamp. The binder was becoming a story you could hand a judge. I called Daniel and read the note to him. He made a noise I think he reserves for baseball games and good case law. Midpoint, he said. What? In the movies, he said, rueful. The part where the truth shows up in the middle and flips the board. It's a kitchen table, I said. But yes. He laid out the next steps the way a surgeon explains a procedure. Preservation letters to the notary and parcel shop, subpoenas to the bank and insurer. A police report opened with the Economic Crimes Unit. Not because we needed cops in my kitchen, but because prosecutors like to see formalities if they're going to file charges. We can go civil for conversion and fraud regardless, he said. But if the DA bites, it moves faster. And Lily? I asked. Because every plan has to run through that filter in me now. We'll keep her out of it as long as we can, he said. This isn't about vengeance. It's about a line and which side of it people stand on. The parcel shop coughed up a grainy still from a camera pointed at a counter. A woman in a blue cardigan, hair around her shoulders, signing in a little rectangle of fluorescent light. Her face was turned 3/4 away. You couldn't swear to it in a court of law without additional proof. But familiarity is its own kind of evidence, and I knew the tilt of that head like I know my own handwriting. Daniel texted, "This, plus bank video if we get it, plus notary journal as seen enough." I baked the way my mother taught me to keep my hands from becoming fists. Butter and sugar agree with the part of a person that wants to make daily bread out of any disaster. I packed half the cookies in a tin for Lily and left the other half on the counter for the version of me who forgets to eat when the paperwork thickens. That night, I sat at my little round table and looked at the stack. Henry's note, the loan form, the notary page, the email change confirmation, the check images, pages, HR log. A little biography of betrayal, annotated in toner. I poured myself a glass of water and made a decision so plain it didn't feel like a drumbeat. It felt like a door swinging on a well-oiled hinge. No more phone calls with walls. No more kitchen confrontations where love and rage turn into soup. If this was going to be a reckoning, it would happen in a place where daylight could sit in the chairs with us. I opened my calendar and blocked a lunch reservation for Saturday at a downtown place everyone in our circle knows because the bread comes out hot and the booths keep secrets poorly. I texted Kyle and Jenna, "Lunch, Saturday at 1. We need to talk. Me, you, Daniel. No surprises." Jenna replied with and then, "Is Lily coming?" I wrote back, "Not this time. I'll have her Sunday for cookies." Last, I texted Paige, "Would you join us for lunch Saturday? I need you to bring Henry's note and your memory." She wrote back, "Quick. Of course. I'll wear my steel-toed flats." I set my phone down and turned off the lamp. The river was a moving stripe beyond my window. For the first time since the day Lily's whisper cracked something in me open, I felt the shape of what comes next settle into my hands. Documents, witnesses, and a table no one could flip without flipping the whole room. I slept like a person with keys under her pillow. We picked a table where sunlight didn't ask permission. Paige set down an envelope. Daniel slid his briefcase under his chair like a dog that only bites on command. I put the binder in the middle of the table, its plastic sleeves shining like a promise. Kyle and Jenna arrived 2 minutes late, hands empty. Jenna wore the blue cardigan with the tiny embroidered cat by the shoulder. Seeing it made the notary's voice play in my head like an answering machine. "Thanks for coming," I said. "We're going to use plain words and paper." A server delivered water and the bread they're famous for. We didn't touch it. Jenna went first. "This is ridiculous," she said, bright and brittle. "We're family." "That's why we're here in daylight with receipts," I said. "Sit." They sat. Daniel clicked a pen without writing anything. Paige folded her hands like she was about to interview someone for a job they wouldn't like. I opened the binder to the loan form. "This is a loan against a policy Henry bought 28 years ago. I didn't sign this. Someone did in my name 3 months after his funeral." Jenna's eyebrows went up. Offended innocence practiced to a sheen. "You asked me to help with paperwork then. Everything was a mess." "I asked for help, not forgery," I said. I tapped the notary stamp. "We spoke to Ms. Merritt. You wore that cardigan. You handed over a driver's license. She wrote the number in her book." Kyle glanced at the cardigan like it might confess on Jenna's shoulder. "You don't know that." Paige slid a printout onto the table. "HR call log," she said. "A year before Henry died, Jenna asked me how beneficiary changes work and whether a non-spouse could sign for him if he wasn't up to it." I told her no. I flagged it for Henry because my hackles went up. He laughed it off. He shouldn't have. Jenna's smile thinned. I was trying to understand the rules. I managed details. "That's what you liked about me when I planned Lily's 5th birthday." Daniel placed 2 photos by the loaf of bread. Bank check images from the same week as the policy loan. Memo lines. Insurer. Notary. The handwriting isn't Nora's. The bank will give us branch video if it exists. The parcel shop has already preserved their footage. Here. He slid a grainy still across. Blue cardigan, shoulder-length hair, face 3/4 turned. We'll let a jury call it. Jenna reached for the photo. Daniel kept his finger on it until she withdrew her hand. Power is sometimes a fingertip. I put Henry's note on top of the pile, his block print suddenly louder than all of us. The policy is for you, not for anyone who calls you Mom with their hands out." Kyle read it and looked away like it was Son. "He wrote that?" he asked, voice smaller than the man wearing it. "He did," Paige said softly. "He loved her belt and suspenders. He didn't love pressure." Jenna exhaled through her nose. "We took a loan to keep the policy from lapsing," she said, quick. "We were protecting your asset. You're welcome." "You also changed the contact email to an account I never owned," I said, "which is how notices went to a folder in your computer instead of my mailbox. Protection doesn't hide the map." Her eyes flashed. "You were grieving. You weren't paying attention. Someone had to." "That someone wasn't you," I said, even. "Not without permission, not with my name in a stranger's hand." The server came back to ask if we were ready to order. We said not yet in the chorus of people whose appetite has moved to their throat. Daniel laid out the choices like a menu no one likes. "Here's where we are. We have a completed investigation with the insurer's document set, an identifiable notary, preserved video, bank check images, and a third-party record of Jenna's earlier attempt to learn how to redirect benefits. Conservatorship petition already thrown out with a suggestion of sanctions. You can stipulate to entry of a civil judgment for the loan amount plus costs, rescind your petition, and cooperate with the insurer to cure and restore. Or we refer the package to the district attorney today and let this proceed as forgery and theft." Kyle put both hands on the table, palms down like he was trying to calm a horse. "How much?" he asked. Daniel quoted the number, interest included. It was a clean number and a hard one. "We don't have that," Kyle said. "You had it long enough to spend it," I said. Jenna leaned in, voice low and hot. "You have no proof I signed anything. The notary book says driver's license, not cat cardigan and a moral opinion. You're an old woman with a vendetta and a lawyer who likes fees. We can walk into any police station and say you're being manipulated. We can call adult protective and tell them you're unsafe on your own. We can say Daniel is isolating you from your family and coaching you. We can say you signed and forgot. Do you want to litigate your own memory in public?" There it was, the pinch that tries to crush. My hands went cold and steady at the same time. "You already tried that route," I said. "It failed. If you try it again, you'll pay my fees. And if you threaten to cut off my relationship with Lily, I'll ask a judge to set a grandparent visitation schedule, and I'll bring this file to the hearing so the court sees what kind of boundaries I'm setting and why." Kyle flinched. "No one is taking Lily from you." Jenna turned to him, quick. "We are not agreeing to a judgment we can't pay." "Then propose a plan," Daniel said, "with collateral, with a confession of judgment held in escrow, with an agreement to cooperate in any criminal inquiry." Jenna looked at me like she could will me back into the house where my name sat on the light bill and nowhere else. "You would do this to us?" "To your son? You'll ruin us." "I'm going to stop paying for theft," I said. "What ruins you is your math." She sat back, crossing her arms. "No deal." Kyle closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked like the kid who used to hold his breath until he turned pink if he thought it would get him a later bedtime. "Mom," he said, "please." "Please what?" I asked. "Please pretend? Please be quiet because the room is public and you're embarrassed? I was quiet for 18 months. Look where quiet invited us." Silence settled like a tablecloth. Daniel reached into his briefcase and brought out a single page. "Then you should know I've already opened a case number with the Economic Crimes Unit. They asked me to let them know how this lunch went. If you're declining to resolve, we walk 2 blocks and hand them the binder. I expect the DA will file. Whether they arrest you or give you notice to appear is out of my control." Jenna laughed, a brittle, wrong note in a room that knew better. "You think some detective will care about a family squabble?" I looked past her shoulder. "Ask her yourself." Detective Alvarez had been sitting at the coffee bar since we arrived, back turned in the professional way of people who listen without looking. Daniel had asked her to be nearby in case we needed a handoff. Now he lifted a palm, and she brought her cup and badge to our table, normal as a neighbor except for the weight clipped to her belt. "Afternoon," she said, pleasant. "I'm Ruth Alvarez, Economic Crimes." "Ms. Hale." She nodded to me. "Mr. Cross, we've spoken. I won't stay if you don't want me to." I surprised myself. "Stay," I said. "Please, I don't want any more rooms where only love is the law." Alvarez stood, didn't sit. "I'm not here to referee," she said. "I'm here because there's an allegation and enough paper to respect it." "Ms. Hale, are you willing to give a statement?" "Yes." She nodded. "I'll take it after lunch. Mr. Hale, Ms. Hale," to Kyle and Jenna now, "you don't have to say anything to me today. You're welcome to call counsel. But if we refer this to the DA and they file, you'll get a case number and a date whether we chat now or in a week." Jenna's mouth worked around a sentence and came up with, "This is harassment." "It's how law works," Alvarez said, not unkindly. "Paper, signatures, timelines, the kind of boring that gets people in trouble when they try to shortcut it." Jenna stood so fast her chair skidded. A couple at the next table turned their heads without meaning to. That was the moment I felt the old family trap spring. The part of me that wanted to smooth, explain, apologize for bringing Storm into a room with other people's soup. That was the moment that used to be my undoing. I put my hand on the binder instead. "We're done," I said. Jenna grabbed her purse. "If you do this," she said, tremor finally audible, "Lily won't—" Kyle put his hand on her forearm. "Don't," he said, quiet. He looked at me. "We'll bring you a plan by Monday," he said. "Hours. Just give me hours." Jenna yanked free. "No," she said to him, then to me. "No, you want a war? Fine." She clicked away in the little heels she wears when she needs to feel taller. The room didn't clap. It did what rooms do, absorbed what happened and returned to gravity. Alvarez watched Jenna go, then looked at me. "I'll be at that corner table," she said. "Whenever you're ready." Paige let out a breath I didn't know she'd been holding. "Well," she said, voice dry, "high noon." I finally tore a piece of bread. It was hot enough to remind me I have a mouth and a body and a life that isn't just paper. "Let's order," I said, and my voice didn't shake. We ate like people who had remembered appetite. When we finished, Daniel paid before I could argue. Paige hugged me like a woman who'd carry one end of the couch any time I asked. At Alvarez's table, I gave my statement. Plain facts, dates, names, the cardigan. I didn't add adjectives. She asked tidy questions, the kind that make truth a straight-backed chair. When we were done, she slid a card across the wood. "Case number will come from the DA," she said. "If they file, you'll get notice. If they ask for more, I'll call." On my way home, the river threw broken light up at the underbelly of a cloud. I drove with the windows cracked and my lungs felt bigger than my rib cage. Then the crash after an adrenaline thing, the shaking hands, the what have I done of it, the thought to call and say, never mind for the sake of quiet. I pulled over. I listened until I could hear something other than my own pulse. Henry's note was in my bag. I took it out and read the line about love not being a lever. Paige's laugh about steel-toed flats, Lily's cat cookies, the church ladies with their sign. I put the note back. I started the car. Sunday, Lily and I made cookies with whiskers so crisp they looked like they'd meow. We swam until our fingers wrinkled. When I walked her back to the car, Kyle hugged me longer than hello requires. "I'm working on it," he said into my hair. "I'm sorry." "Work faster," I said, "because forgiveness is not the same thing as financing." He nodded. "Okay." Monday morning, Daniel's name lit up my phone before coffee. I answered with a hello that tried to be brave and landed on human. "Short and sweet," he said. "DA filed, 2 counts, felony check forgery, misdemeanor theft by deception for the policy loan. Arraignment notice will go out by mail. We'll keep our civil track in motion, too. You did it." I sat at the kitchen table with my palms flat like I was steadying a map. The river made a moving stripe on my wall. Somewhere, A mail sort machine would be delivering official paper to a house with a mortgage I don't pay anymore. Thank you, I said. You did it, he repeated. I hung up and made toast, butter, thin. I opened the binder and slid a new page in, State V, the line that names what happens when private wrongs turn public. It went behind Henry's note and in front of the photo of the cardigan, like love bracing law, bracing proof. Then I dialed a number I didn't want to. Jenna answered on the third ring, voice flat. You'll get a notice, I said. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I won't talk about it with Lily. I expect you to do the same. Silence. Then, not triumph, not even fury. Tired. You could have just asked for the money back, she said. I did, I said, at lunch. Click. The line went dead. I set the phone down and let the quiet hold. The crisis inside me didn't roar the way it used to. It sat. It watched the light move. It waited to see what I might do with the rest of the day. I made a list, call the insurer, confirm the block, ask about reinstatement once the loan's repaid. Text the watercolor teacher that my lemon finally looked like itself. Ask the book club if we could handle a memoir next and treat it kindly. Buy flour. At noon, I took my binder and went to the pool. I floated on my back, ears underwater, the ceiling a bright blur. Somewhere in town, papers were finding hands. Somewhere, a woman in a blue cardigan was learning the difference between help and harm. I let the water hold me up, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't apologize to it for taking up the space I take. The plea offer came on a Tuesday, tucked into an email with the subject line that makes your heart hop. People v. Hale. Proposed resolution. Daniel read it to me over coffee at my kitchen table. They'll drop the felony if Jenna pleads to misdemeanor forgery, he said. 18 months probation, financial counseling, no contact order as to you except for logistics about Lily, and restitution for the full loan, accrued interest, bank costs, and your fees the court will allow. They want your input. What about Kyle? I asked. Not charged, he said. Alvarez liked the timeline. He spent the money but didn't sign. DA wants him on the hook, civilly. I looked at the river. If the choice is restitution or a cell, I pick the money and the paper that keeps her out of my kitchen. Daniel nodded. We'll counter for a confession of judgment, wage garnishment backstop, and a lien on the house. No more trust-based arrangements. He smiled at his own pun and then pretended he hadn't. We wrote back in the language of scaffolding, numbers, dates, verbs that become orders. Stipulate, execute, deliver. By Friday, the ADA agreed. If the court signs, Daniel said, we're done with the criminal side except compliance checks. Good, I said. I have watercolor on Thursdays. He asked me to write a victim statement. I kept it short. I didn't talk about cardigan blue or grief as fog. I wrote, I want my name back where it belongs. I want repayment and distance. I asked the court to keep Lily out of the hot part of this. Sentencing fell on a bright morning you can't blame anything on. We sat 3 rows back in a courtroom that smelled like wood and winter coats. Jenna wore a gray dress that wanted to be neutral. Kyle sat an arm's length away, hands clasped like he'd been given a fragile thing he didn't know how to hold. When our case was called, Jenna stood with her lawyer. The judge, same one who'd bounced the conservatorship, flipped through a thin file and thicker report. Ms. Hale, he said, you've agreed to plead guilty to misdemeanor forgery in exchange for dismissal of count 1. You understand the rights you're giving up? Yes, she said, voice small and too bright. He took the plea clean. The ADA summarized the facts without weight. Check images, parcel shop footage, notary journal, email change, policy loan, valuation that said I was fine. Alvarez sat on the back wall, eyes on the papers because that's how you respect a room like this. Ms. Hale, the judge said to me, do you wish to be heard? I stood and read my paragraph. My voice stayed in its lane. When I finished, he nodded. Thank you, Ms. Hale. He read the sentence like a list you could tape to a refrigerator. 18 months probation, financial responsibility course within 90 days, no contact with the victim except as authorized by her counsel for logistics concerning minor child. Restitution in the amount of, he read the number, to be paid according to schedule, secured by a confession of judgment, wage garnishment up to allowable percentage under state law, and a consensual lien against the residence at he read the address. Defendant to sign all documents today. Violation of any term will convert the plea to a conviction with potential jail up to, he read the statute. Compliance review in 6 months. He looked up. Questions? Jenna's lawyer asked a technical one about the order of liens. Daniel raised a hand. Your Honor, the civil stipulation includes a clause that deposits initial funds directly to the insurer to cure the policy and reinstate. We'd like that incorporated. So ordered, the judge said, pen already moving. Outside, Jenna signed the confession of judgment with hands that shook, the irony not lost on anyone. Kyle signed the civil stipulation that made him a co-debtor. The clerk notarized with neutral eyes. In the hallway, Kyle looked at me like a man who'd turned a corner and didn't like the street he found. I'm sorry, he said. Not a performance. Not enough. The only thing you can say when a room like that points all its chairs at you. I know, I said. Now pay it. Money got practical fast. They sold the second car. Kyle took weekend shifts. A refund from a canceled vacation package landed and went straight to the insurer. Jenna's lawyer wired the initial lump sum that cured the loan and interest. The policy reinstatement notice arrived a week later, the kind of boring paper that means the opposite of boring things. I called Cora at the insurer and heard the satisfaction people like us tuck into the edges of a day. Your policy is current, she said. Block stays on your account. No changes without voice verification. Thank you, I said, for keeping boring sacred. I slid the reinstatement behind the judge's order in the binder. Love, law, receipt, the spine of the last few months. Probation turned out to be its own quiet machine. Jenna sat in classes where people who'd also tried creative arithmetic learned about how numbers resist charm. She sent her monthly payments. The first one came late. Daniel filed a notice that made the second arrive early. A wage garnishment order clicked on like a porch light. The lien sat on the house records like a footnote no one could ignore. Every time a payment hit, Daniel forwarded a confirmation with a subject line that never tried to be cute. I kept my life humming. Swim Tuesdays and Fridays, watercolor Thursdays, book club every other week, church ladies on speed dial. I learned to make lemon look like lemon and not like sorrow. I bought a bathing suit that wasn't chosen to make anyone comfortable but me. The bridge between my old life and my new one didn't creak anymore when I crossed it. Lily came most Sundays. We built a routine that doubled as a boundary. Handoff in the lobby, cookies after swimming, a craft at the table. She told me when her class was studying the solar system and which planet she liked best, the ring one, which we agreed was reasonable. She asked why grown-ups had to go to court, and I told her, because sometimes we need a bigger room to help us remember what's fair. Did the judge tell you what to do? She asked. I told the judge what I wanted, I said, and he wrote it down. She nodded like this made more sense than most of the world. Kids understand rules when they're clear. One Wednesday, Kyle showed up at my apartment with a box of papers and a face drawn tight by honest work. I'm refinancing, he said. The lien will be paid at close. I made tea and set the box on the table. We went through his budget like it was a garden that needed weeding. I did not write checks. I pointed at subscriptions that were invisible until you say them out loud. I told him about the grocery store that circled markdowns at 4 o'clock like a ritual. He wrote notes like this was school, and he wanted an A before he got grounded. I should have done this before, he said, pen tapping the margin. Yes, I said. But we're here now. He looked around my apartment, really looked. Plants leaning toward the right light. The lemon painting I'd finally hung. Henry's flag. This is nice, he said. It is, I said. We sat in the quiet that used to scare us. It didn't anymore. At the 6-month review, Jenna's PO reported compliance bordering on overcorrection. The judge checked boxes and said, "Keep going." We left without speaking to each other. Paige met me for lunch to celebrate the policy letter and the way restitution receipts look like ticking clocks working in your favor. We ate bread hot enough to remind us the world does simple things well. She asked about Lily. I asked about work. We did not say Jenna's name. It helps. There were still days the whole thing washed back over me in a wave. Opening the mail, walking past a parcel shop, seeing a cardigan the wrong shade of blue. I learned to let the wave pass without inviting it in for coffee. That's what boundaries are, too. One night, the church ladies set up in my kitchen like an army of kindness and taught me how to make pierogi that don't burst. We lined them on the counter like a little regiment and boiled them in batches. The apartment smelled like butter and onions and something older than mistakes. I sent half home with them and kept half for the freezer. Security tastes like dumplings, it turns out. By month 9, the restitution ledger had real gaps in it. By month 12, the lien paid off at closing when Kyle refinanced. Daniel sent me a note without adjectives, paid in full. I sat down on the kitchen floor because chairs felt too ceremonial. When I stood up, I made a copy of the last receipt and put it behind the reinstatement letter in the binder. Then I wrote a single line on a blank page. Done. The ADA emailed a compliance summary the next day. Defendant on track to complete probation, she wrote. No contact order remains. Any modification requires your consent. I replied. No modification requested. Jenna sent a letter through Daniel 2 weeks later. It was typed. No apologies in the fancy words. At the end, she wrote one plain sentence in her own hand. I won't ask you to fix me anymore. I put it in the binder behind the court's orders because growth also belongs in the official record, even if it's small and late. Lily asked if she could bring a friend to the pool. We hosted 2 girls who yelled like dolphins and left wet footprints that looked like punctuation. I didn't mind the noise. It sounded like a life that didn't need a judge to keep it upright. On the anniversary of the day the plea went through, I took the binder down from the shelf, opened to the first page, and turned each sleeve slowly. The story held warning, move, petition, evaluation, policy, lunch, plea, order, payment, letter. It was boring, in the way safety is beautiful. I snapped it shut and slid it back where it lives. Then I packed a tote with a towel, a book, and 2 lemons I didn't plan to paint. Daniel called as I locked the door. Just checking, he said. How's your routine? Restored, I said, and felt the word settle. On the way to the pool, I passed the parcel shop. The window held a sign about shipping deadlines. The clerk inside was new. No blue cardigans. I kept walking. Probation ended on a Monday. The court sent a 1-page order that said, successfully completed. It didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a math problem checked and put away. I didn't call Jenna. I didn't call Kyle. I put the order in the binder and went to watercolor. The lemon on my page looked exactly like itself. That night, I FaceTimed Lily and held the phone so she could see the river catching late light. School play is in 3 weeks, she said. I'm the narrator. Typecast, I said. You're the only person I know who can make once upon a time sound like an event. She grinned. Will you come? Of course, I said. That's the whole point. I slept with the window open and woke up before my alarm, not because my heart was racing, but because my body has finally remembered how to be a body when it isn't bracing. I made toast. I buttered it thin. I wrote a list that didn't include any words like subpoena or affidavit. It said, call Lily, swim, paint, buy flour. It said, live. The program for Lily's school play was stapled crooked, which made me love it more. Her name sat at the top of the narrator list in a font that dreamed of Broadway. I circled it anyway because sometimes you underline joy so it knows you saw it. I sat on the aisle in the 4th row. Kyle took a seat 2 rows back. Jenna slipped in on the far side, hair pinned, mouth composed. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The orchestra hit its first brave note, and the curtain bobbed like it was shy and then remembered itself. "Once upon a time," Lily said into a microphone too close to her mouth, and the gym smiled as one creature. She read like someone who believed the story had already happened and we were lucky to be reminded. When she finished, the applause felt like rain that remembered how to be gentle. In the hallway, kids in cardboard crowns pinwheeled past. Kyle hugged me with a care he'd earned. Jenna looked at me, then at Lily, then down. I nodded once. She nodded back. It was a truce the size of a head tilt, and I took it. "Grandma," Lily said, hopping a little from excitement. "Did you hear me?" "You were the story," I said. She beamed so wide I saw all her baby teeth in the grin, and the one new one trying to find its place. Sunday, we kept our routine. Swim, cookies, something to make and keep. She asked if we could write house rules like her class did. "Rules for what?" I asked. "For us," she said, as if the idea were already laminated. "So I know what to do." I pulled out a sheet of printer paper, and we wrote them together in purple marker. "Ask before borrowing anything that isn't yours." Names are things. No secrets about money, no yelling in kitchens. Cookies sometimes come before dinner if the day earned it. Everyone gets to go home feeling safe. She added a sixth rule. Cats are allowed if they're drawings. We taped the list to the side of my refrigerator where the magnets aren't too bossy. It looked like a contract that knew how to bake. On Tuesday, Kyle texted, "Can I come by? Alone? Balcony?" I said yes, and he showed up with a manila folder and the posture of someone who knows he will be weighed and measured and is willing. On the balcony, the river did its slow work. He handed me the folder like a dog returning a slipper undamaged. "Therapy intake," he said, eyes on the water. "Budget, the refinance paperwork, a calendar." "I'm not handing these to you to hold. I'm showing you I'm holding them." "Good," I said. He exhaled like the word had permission inside it. "What are your terms for me?" he asked, like the court had for Jenna, but ours. I'd been working on them without meaning to. I brought out a single page I'd typed the day probation ended, bullet points clean and shoulder high. The title at the top made me smile despite myself because plain language keeps my knees under me. New terms. Finances are separate, no loans. If you ask for help, it will be in writing. Specific, one time, and I'm allowed to say no without explaining. "No contact with me about your wife," passed her lawyer. "You and I talk about you and Lily. Therapy for you, not as penance, as practice. Share milestones, not notes. No mom emergencies that are really budget failures. Use your folder. Handoffs for Lily stay public and kind. If you want me at a family event, invite me with details and let me decline without hurt. If either of us feels old patterns reach for us, we pause. We pick a bigger room before the next sentence." He read it twice. "This is fair," he said. "It's necessary," I said. "Fair comes after." He nodded. "Okay." He folded the paper like it was more map than rule, which I suppose it was. "Do you want me to ask Jenna to write you?" "I don't want to be written to," I said. "Not yet." The no-contact order didn't need my virtue to justify it. It had ink. "What I want is for Lily to see her parents do the rules we taped to my fridge. At your house, too." He rubbed his jaw. "We can do that." We sat and watched a barge move past, patient as a sermon. When he left, I put the new terms page in the front pocket of the binder, and then, without ceremony, slid the whole binder onto a higher shelf behind the cookbooks. It was still within reach. It no longer lived on the table where dinner should. Paige called and said, "Are you free for lunch, or are you too busy becoming legend to small narrators?" "Bread and sunlight sound right," I said. We met where we always do. We ate, we picked at other people's plots, and we didn't talk about court because not every friendship has to carry the same box up every staircase. At home, I took Henry's note out of its sleeve and made a copy clean enough to satisfy the part of me that audits. The original went into a safe deposit box the bank manager opened with a key that looked borrowed from a fairy tale. I kept the copy in the binder because love in triplicate doesn't dilute, it steadies. The routine took root the way Ivy does, quietly, then all at once. Swim Tuesdays and Fridays, watercolor on Thursdays, book club every other week with the same women who forgave plot holes and did not forgive theft. Church ladies on speed dial and in my kitchen, where they learned I can seal a pierogi properly now. My plants chose their angles toward the sun and stopped arguing with the window. On a Saturday that felt the right kind of ordinary, I took Lily to the used bookstore. She found a chapter book about a girl who wants to be a detective. I bought it and a novel with sentences that moved like a river I recognized. On the way out, Lily slipped her hand into mine and said, "I like your rules." "Me too," I said. "Do grown-ups have to follow them when they aren't in your kitchen?" she asked. "They do," I said, "or they should." We stood on the sidewalk and let a bicycle herd pass. She looked up at me and said, "What happens if they forget?" "We remind them," I said. "We say it kindly once, then clearly, then with help if we need it." She nodded like I'd given her a math fact. "Okay." Summer tilted in and made the pool a place where laughter bounced off water like little coins. Kyle started showing up to drop-offs on time, hair combed, worry dialed down. He never asked for money. He asked if I wanted photos from the school field day. I did. He sent the good ones and growth. Didn't over-explain the bad. Jenna's payments landed when they were supposed to. Her lawyer proposed lifting the no-contact order after completion of probation. Daniel forwarded it with a 2-word cover, "Your call." I sat with it a week like you sit with a dress that might fit in a changing room, but not in a life. When I answered, I didn't write a speech. "Not now," I said. "Logistics only. Try again in a year. I do wish you well." It wasn't mercy or punishment. It was math. Time counts as currency after certain kinds of trouble. On an evening that smelled like rain that wasn't sure yet, my doorbell rang. Kyle again, no folder this time. "You were right about the grocery store markdowns," he said. 4 o'clock is witching hour." "I'm a witch with coupons," I said. He looked at the lemon I'd finally framed, the one I'd painted until it stopped being a sad yellow rock and became fruit. "That looks exactly like a lemon," he said. "Thank you," I said, because the compliment hit the right size of pride. He checked the house rules on my fridge and grinned at number 4. "Cookies before dinner?" "Birthday weeks and court anniversaries," I said. "Maybe the first night of a school play." He looked at me, a little uncertain. "Yes," I said. "I'll be at the next one." We stood in a quiet that didn't bite anymore. He cleared his throat. "Mom?" "Yes?" "Thanks for not turning the page without us, for drawing a line and then leaving a margin." "You still have to write neatly," I said. He laughed, surprised, the way he used to before the years got heavy. September found us. The apartment took on that thin edge of cool mornings. I bought a new robe that felt like a joke told softly. The mail was dull and honest. Insurance statements said what they meant. The binder stayed on the shelf. When I reached for it, it was to slide new boring proof between its covers. Renewal notices, tax receipts, the kind of paper somebody once convinced me was a nuisance, but is actually a hymn. I saw Jenna at the grocery store. She froze by the green beans and then kept moving. We performed a choreography of strangers who share a family. Her cart had flour and apples. Mine had butter and lemons and a bag of sugar I didn't apologize for. The no-contact order hummed between us. Not angry, just present. Boundaries that hold keep more than one person safe. At watercolor, I tried a portrait for the first time in years. Lily in profile. A little serious because concentration does that to a face. It was almost right and then wrong and then, from a certain angle in a certain light, exactly her. I didn't tear it up. I kept working. That's part of the terms, too. We don't quit because the middle is ugly. On a Sunday that kept all its promises, Lily and I made cat cookies with whiskers so crisp they might complain if you broke them. She asked, "What happens if I grow up and forget the rules?" "You won't," I said, "because you're writing your own and you'll like them better." She thought about that and said, "I think my rules will have more glitter." "Just sweep," I said. When she left, I washed the bowls and left one uncooked cookie on a plate, a small ceremony for the woman who used to stand in a different kitchen and pretend she didn't mind being turned into a wallet. I ate it without guilt and with a glass of milk cold enough to make my teeth ache. The ache felt like proof of living. Before bed, I wrote a list. It did not say subpoena or affidavit. It said, "Text Lily. Good luck on the quiz. Bring extra towel to the pool for the new neighbor who keeps forgetting. Call the bank to add Paige to the call if I don't answer sheet, because the people who bring you envelopes full of truth should get phone calls too." I turned off the kitchen light. The river moved past in the dark, unbothered by our plots and plans, faithful to the physics that make water keep its promises. I went to the balcony and let the night sit beside me. The city made its soft machine sound, my heart matched its pace, keys on my palm, papers in my name, a door I open because my hand is the one on the knob, a granddaughter who tells a room when the story begins and believes her own voice, a son making a budget in pencil he intends to honor in ink, a family held together not by silence or sacrifice, but by terms, we said out loud. I went inside and locked the door, not because I was afraid, but because even the safest homes deserve a latch that works. Then I slid a copy of the new terms page into the drawer by the phone, on top of the takeout menus where living happens. I slept without bracing. In the morning, the list was still there. I buttered toast thin and did the smallest, bravest things first. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here,